India. Really lovely to see such a varied audience. Thank you for joining in. My name is Sriram Iyer, and I'm the founder and CEO of hrtech.sg. I'm your host for the session today. With me on the webinar is Ankur Sehgal, who is the director for Asia Pacific at PeopleStrong. PeopleStrong is a leading PeopleStrong is a leading HR SaaS provider with over 1 million users globally. So we're going to have a lot of learning to be shared. Welcome, Ankur, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Sriram.
Next slide. Yes. This webinar is very topical. We'll be focusing on the mentioned 5 questions. And we are quite hopeful at the end of the webinar, you should have answers to all the questions that we have mentioned here. First, what are the top remote working challenges that our companies are facing, and especially enterprise HR teams? Second, what are the workplace trends that are happening in the HR technology front from a service provider perspective? Third, the most critical thing, right? How do we ensure we adopt new technologies to ensure there is better employee collaboration, engagement, and productivity? 4, how do we integrate all of these various tools to ensure we have a seamless user experience? And 5, this is the common question that we have received from most participants, is why do most HR tech implementations fail, and what should we keep in mind to ensure that it goes off smoothly? So these are the questions that we will address. A quick overview of hrtech.sg. hrtech.sg is a Singapore-based HR technology market development and analyst firm. We share industry trends, closely tracking them through our blogs, research reports, and articles. We publish them. We work with enterprises in identifying the best-in-class technology solutions for all of their HR needs. And finally, we host what is Singapore's largest and curated HR tech marketplace with over 95 product providers across people analytics, compensation benefits, HRMS, talent acquisition, development, talent engagement, and operations. To this varied audience that we have, as I mentioned, from Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, India, Vietnam too. I mean, what we will try to do is we'll try to keep it very, very broad-based. But I want to highlight the 2020 Singapore HR Tech Market Map that we are the co-creators of. We worked on this with Adrian Tan. So we mapped out 160 service providers that are servicing the Singapore HR tech marketplace across 8 broad categories. Again, analytics, talent planning, talent engagement, talent operations. All of these 8 categories, we mapped it. The reason is very simple. We want each one of the enterprise HR team member, if they need to identify a solution, they need to look up the respective category. The last 3 months has been the most busiest, and Ankur will agree, for any one in the HR technology space. There are 4 factors essentially. One, the new normal of remote work has actually accelerated the adoption of technology to ensure there is a seamless employee experience. The HR teams are under tremendous pressure to deliver more with less, and obviously you need to leverage technology to augment the HR team. You also have cost pressures. So by adopting cloud-based solutions, you don't have to invest in huge upfront capital costs, which is a great plus factor that is leading to more adoption. Number 3, increasingly leadership is asking every decision that the HR team takes needs to be highly data-driven. And so there is a lot more adoption of analytics and technology. And finally, various governments across the region are nudging the enterprises to adopt technology. Take, for example, the Singapore government, through the recent 4 budgets, is pumping in $100 billion into the Singapore economy to protect jobs and businesses and ensure a lot of them adopt technology for their growth. One thing is very evident, right? The current pandemic has caught all of us off guard. Short-term and medium-term plans have been ambushed completely. So technology adoption is the only way to ensure we are able to have an eye on what is happening in the marketplace. And technology is going to be the clear bridge for us to transition to the new normal. And what we have seen repeatedly in our research is that enterprises that focus on HR tech as part of the transformation agenda are creating sustainable economic value and better workplace experience. We are moving to the experience economy. So workplace experience for the users is a key element. And that's why COVID-19, I would say, is the biggest accelerator for digital adoption in our lifetime. The way we attract and hire talent, the way we engage with them, the way we price them and reward them, the way we engage, collaborate and communicate with them, all of them have got impacted. And that's why there's a surge in adoption of HR technologies. So we really want it to be a very engaging session. So please feel free to use the chat functionality to pop up any questions that you have, queries, and my colleague Swecha will try addressing it as promptly as possible. We also have the Q&A functionality. Please send in your Q&A questions so that Ankur can handle it at the end of the session. We begin with our first poll of the day, and we are really waiting to see the results of the 3 polls that we are administering today. We request each one of you to send in your options, and it's going to come right now on your screen. Right, the question is from an employee perspective. So leave off your HR hats, but wear your employee hats and say, what are the top challenges when you are working from home? In the remote working functionality, what are the biggest challenges are you facing? Is it social isolation? Is it distractions at home? Is it blurring gap between personal life and work life? Or is it infrastructure issues at home? What is the biggest stumbling block from an employee perspective while working from home? Interesting results. It seems to be seesawing every second with a lot of inputs. Since we have hundreds of participants, let's wait for all of them to send in their requests. That's interesting. Perfect. We end our poll right now, and let me flash it. And not surprising at all, right? I mean, while the blurring gap between personal life and work life does stand out very clearly, what we are seeing is all others are also big challenges. But yeah, definitely the work life and personal life are getting blurred. So we move to the next slide, and that's the first question for the day, right? Ankur, we have seen what are the challenges that the employees are facing, right? Let's look at it from a company perspective, from an enterprise HR team perspective, and a service and a leadership perspective. What are the key challenges that the companies are facing?
Thank you so much, Sriram. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone who have joined us from different parts of the world. So before I begin, maybe just in one slide, I wanted to capture what does PeopleStrong stand for, the organization that I represent. PeopleStrong is basically an enterprise-grade HR technology that, as on date today, services around 250 customers in the different parts of the world, majorly in Asia Pacific, and we have approximately 1 million users on our platform as on date. In Singapore, last year we won the HR Tech Vendor of the Year award, so we are really proud of that. And maybe one of the reasons why we won that was that we have a highest user adoption rate, which is approximately 98%. We feel that employees are the drivers of the organization, and that's where a lot of focus has been spent on the employee experience itself. We are rated 4.2 on App Store and Play Store with more than 300,000 downloads. That's the highest rating by any HR B2B app in the world right now, a Net Promoter Score of 39, a Gartner peer rating of 4.75 out of 5, and all of this is cutting across 14 different industries. We are really proud that we are one of the very few HR tech companies that is GDPR compliant, SSA 18 audited type 2, so your data is totally secured. So just a very, very quick background of what does PeopleStrong stand for, and all of this data is hosted on Amazon Web Services in Singapore. Now, coming back to the question that you asked, Sriram, which is a very interesting question, which is about the remote work, the challenges faced by companies nowadays. What I've tried to do is I've tried to depict two personas over here. The first one is people who are transitioning to remote work, and second is persona that have still to continue to work on site. Major reason being that, for example, Singapore started with circuit breaker, then phase one, then phase two, and maybe we are transitioning towards phase three, right? So let's look at this particular person called Tina, who works in accounting and has been working from home occasionally. However, she has two young children at home. I think the poll that we just raised quite a while back actually advocates for this. Second is a person called Patrick, that he who works in IT is very familiar with digital applications and hardware. However, he dislikes collaborating in big groups, which will become a challenge because of remote work, right? Then can we give him an application in which he can kind of collaborate? Third is a person called Mary, which who typically works in marketing and is a true team player. However, she fears that working from home will make her less productive and will disconnect her from colleagues and leaders. So personal touch in HR is really important. How do you build that, particularly with technology at the first place? Then there is Rainer, who works as an R&D head, and his wife and children who are studying economics and are now working remotely. They need to divide their home into working areas. And I think the similar concept where you see me right now, at the bottom, if you see, I'm working in a new work from home office setup. I think a lot of people have transitioned towards that. Vis-a-vis Ayla, who's actually working in a hospital, she has to take care of the patients in COVID scenario. And even Thomas, for that matter, who works in a production side, maybe in a medical devices business. How do typically these people are either transitioning or continuing to work on site? In our overall conversations with all the companies in the past 3 to 6 months and the overall impact of COVID, what we have seen as key emerging outputs were, number one, organizations or companies have to focus a lot on employee experience. Then how do you manage their leaves, their words, their check-ins, their attendance, their remote working stuff on site? On site as in, I mean, working from home. Second is, how do they drive the entire employee connect, where collaboration and productivity have become so important now. Third key layer that has come up is employee reskilling, because now a lot of roles have changed, a lot of jobs are also impacted because of COVID. How will employees be focused towards a digital learning solution? At the same time, they need to reskill themselves. And to be honest, if I move ahead, the remote work, the new normal, is actually a reality. So I was just looking at Microsoft and I picked up from their website. If you look at that, as students and teachers turn to Microsoft Teams for distance learning, there are 183,000 tenants in 175 countries using Teams for education. So if you look at on March 12th, 2020, there are 560 million minutes spent in Microsoft Teams meeting per day, which has actually now surged to 2.7 billion minutes on March 31st. That in itself advocates for a lot of digital and remote work adoption that is taking place. Thanks. You're on mute, Sriram.
Thank you, Ankur. So essentially, we have also been seeing that the EdTech, the education technology space, is definitely overtaking the HR tech space in terms of adoption, because they need to administer their exams remotely and they need to do their admissions remotely. But what is very important, which you highlighted, was the employee skilling, the employee experience, and the employee communication and collaboration needs to be maintained wherever they are. So that moves us to the next question. So what are the workplace trends from a HR tech perspective that you're seeing in the new normal? For example, it is going to be very clear that offices are not going to disappear. Offices will continue to be there, but there'll be substantial changes to the layout, the size, the nature of interactions we are going to have, as you rightly mentioned. So maybe more video calls and fewer in-person meetings, right? Second, and which is going to be the key aspect of discussion in this webinar, is the measurement of productivity, measurement of performance of an employee. When we talk to a lot of clients, especially small and medium enterprises, Ankur, the main question is they have never had a outcome-based performance measurement approach. And suddenly they are here thrown in a scenario where people are working remotely, and remote performance measurement and productivity measurement is becoming a huge challenge, right? So those are the things that we gather, but I really wanted to hear from you what you're seeing in the marketplace.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sriram. So let me just share our perspective on what exactly is the new normal and how things are kind of coming up. In fact, if people want, they can just scan this particular QR code before what I'm going to show you. So what happened at PeopleStrong was, I think in the year 2018, which was around 2 years before, 2 years, we actually sat together and we wrote a letter to ourselves, what we call as what will happen in the summer of 2028, how will HR technology evolve. And believe me, because of COVID, all of that has actually become a reality within the next 2 years, which is 2020. So what I'm going to do is, in the next 3-4 slides, I'm just going to read a letter, what has become a reality for us in the new normal. So our workplace is closer to being a digital thing than a building. Virtual attendance, or simply words, is quite common and is differentiated from physical attendance or pressing. Pressing may be at any of our Intellified offices or at a meeting point in the city. On the right side, if you see that the manager is getting a prompt saying that on Monday morning, how many words are there, how many presses are there. There are word check-ins that are happening across the globe, whether you are in Singapore or Vietnam or Philippines or India, whatsoever. As we move along, the changes are just not in technology, but in the culture. Our company is flatter. Managers are younger and dynamic. They were only 25 when we wrote our vision and mission statement. Quick iterative work is the new preferred way. Outcomes matter, efforts less so, while the credit is diffused. Status is temporary and depends on your last achievement. Seniority is given less importance. The company car, who wants it? And in fact, we are in Singapore, and if you see the picture and the image that have been put here, that's a norm, right? So many CEOs and SMEs and even in large enterprises are using all of these different kind of gadgets and vehicles to come to office or commute. And now, of course, the remote work is kicked in. As I move ahead, we don't see technology, artificial intelligence, or automation as a replacement to employees. They augment human work, a force multiplier, or a bit like horses were at one time. Workers in the factory and offices are judged on how well they master these devices and the digital workflows. So the entire program management thing is coming up. It's confusing to you, flexible to me. And if you see on the right side, this is what I'm getting from my next check. So gig work or gig economy has become a reality now, right? The final slide is that the more the companies digitize their operations, the more data they will generate about workers. Merging this data with what we used to think as of HR data is the logical thing to do. But the big thing is that data isn't controlled or restricted. There are no more silos. All employees can see. Think about that. That's where I think the biggest change is happening, and that's what has become a new normal in my view, Shreya.
That's really interesting to note, Ankur. What you essentially were expecting in 2028, as mentioned, the COVID-19 is actually proving to be an accelerator for some of these outcomes that we are seeing it happen right now. And I was reminded of 2015 or 2016 HBR cover story, which actually talked about saying humans plus machines is augmentation and humans plus machines is not automation. Let's stop using the term automation because it means that humans are getting replaced, but augmentation gives the feeling that, you know, it's an extension of the human effort. Thanks for capturing that, Ankur. So we move to the second poll of the day. We have one more poll before the fifth question. In the last 3 months, has your team implemented, as your enterprise HR team implemented any new tech to facilitate better employee collaboration? So I'm going to run the poll right now. So on your screen, so we're waiting to see whether it's going to be a yes or a no. Ankur, while the answers are coming in, it's interesting. I was talking to a couple of my friends, and one of them was saying that, his leadership is now micromanaging him a lot more because he is now not in office. Whereas another friend is saying, the bosses now realize that work is anyway happening. So they're giving a lot more freedom and lesser micromanagement of the employees. So two distinct things are being seen in the marketplace. And I'm sure the enterprise HR teams would love to see more of the latter happening, lesser micromanaging managers.
I think
Okay, I'm going to.
agree with you, Sriram. Maybe I think what's happening in the market is productivity has become a norm. And how do you measure it? By defining the right objectives, right goals, and then maybe percolating them down into minute tasks of how exactly you can distribute work, and it happens on its own. And but you need to have a view as the overall organization is becoming a reality right now.
Okay. Awesome. And I'm quite surprised with the results because usually in the last few months, I've seen a 60-70% in terms of yes, right? Because a lot of the enterprise HR teams are going in for new technology. Surprised to see it's almost 50-50, or a slightly a positive range for the yes. But that's quite interesting. We probably move to our third question, Ankur.
Sure.
Okay, so this is the question. We have seen what you are saying, right? I mean, we now have technology tools for productivity measurement, performance management, employee collaboration, all of it, right? Show us how it works, and I mean, please share with us case studies of companies which have done that, so that our attendees can get a perspective of it.
Sure, Sriram. Thank you so much for this particular question. So let me just begin with that. Exactly how is an employee and work itself evolving? So if you look at this particular slide, the evolution of the employee is happening. What was a work from 9 to 5 is now becoming work anytime in the remote work age. Work in a corporate office to work anywhere. Use company equipment to bring your own device. Focused on inputs to focused on outputs, productivity and performance. You were climbing up the corporate ladder, you are creating your own career path in succession planning. There was a predefined work to now a custom work with gig economy kicking in. Hordes of information to now you can share information. There was no voice earlier to becoming a leader right now. You were relying on emails, now you're relying on collaboration technologies. And then you were focusing on knowledge. Now knowledge economy becoming a norm, you're focusing on adaptive learning. That is really individual self-paced. And then they were corporate learning and teaching to democratizing learning and teaching. This is the entire evolving world of work. The five key themes that I see emerging are: number one, that companies need to focus on an exceptional user experience to drive the overall adoption. Number two, you need to enable employees to collaborate to achieve more because you can cross utilize the learnings that are there. Number three is that you have to stay open and connected as an entire organization. You need to integrate with a lot of technology platform. Number four is productivity and execution. As I'm repeatedly mentioning it, it is becoming a norm, right from a CEO to a business head to a line of business leader to the last mile employee. Productivity and execution are really important in this post-COVID era. And fifth, of course, is the digital learning. How exactly you can adapt to different learning methodologies and have a self-pace as you go along. So given these five different contexts, let me just share a couple of case studies that may rather help you in understanding what do I mean by each of these. Starting with digital learning, what I actually mean is that if I were to devise the entire learning landscape into five major threads, what we're trying to achieve over here is can you give your employees a system where you can do a course creation. So you can create trainings, you can create assessments, you can create surveys, and of course the entire skills cloud and skills taxonomy sits over there. For particularly Singapore, can a system maybe integrate with the Skills Future SG so that automatically all those competencies are flowing in. Second is, once a course is created, can you kind of move them to course assignment, give them an admin panel, they can do it themselves, and they are not dependent on you. There's a group creation, bulk assignments, even a QR code can be generated for self-enrollment. Then you move to course consumption, where the learners can now have a self-paced learning. in any formats, PPT, video, PDF, because the formats are spreading across the entire spectrum. Then you should be able to grade them. You should be able to do generate certifications, generate a lot of reports, and finally there are dashboards that should enable you to take certain quick decisions, that what exactly is happening as per either the Kirkpatrick model or maybe the Philip model, whatever the organizations are practicing. When I move to the second thread, which is about productivity, how do you drive objectives, goals, and tasks? That is the second question that you asked. So, for example, we currently use Zippy at PeopleStrong. So, you can plan your day, you can just create your tasks on the fly. I can then allocate those specific tasks to respective user groups, either myself or anyone within the organization. Then I can have the entire window where I can view what are the tasks that are open in the organization, what are in progress, what are overdue, and what are completed. And I can even do a contextual conversation on that task, that okay, that where exactly this task has reached, giving the entire organization of the visibility of what is happening on ground. So you are giving me flexibility to do it on my own. At the same time, there is visibility for the overall businesses. Let's move to the third one, focusing on exceptional user experience. Here I want to talk about two different case studies. The first one is called TrueCorp. TrueCorp is Thailand's largest telecom provider, having around 27,000 people, 10 different businesses, and 200 plus locations. Their biggest challenge was that how can we drive an amazing user experience through a mobility solution, because most of their workforce is on feet on street, right? So there were 13 plus integrations that we were able to kind of get together to give them a unified view. It was localized in a multilingual solution in Thai language, and the experience was constant. And I've just put the user interface snapshot here as well, that how across the entire employee spectrum they are able to use this overall application, and it was also converted in Thai language for them. The second example I wanted to cover was for a financial services company going by the name of Aditya Birla, which again, Aditya Birla as a group is also present in Indonesia and parts of Vietnam and other geographies in Asia as well, apart from India, where there are 20,000 people. They were again 11 businesses and having one unified system. In fact, they made a statement in Mint, which is the largest newspaper in India, that after deploying our solution, there was a 40% improvement in the HR team's productivity. That was because of the unified solution of AI layer, which I will cover in the next slides. There was a 94% employee satisfaction that was able to drive out of this particular solution, and 20% improvement in the real-time response rate, because you are able to chat with the overall help desk there and there at, enabling that entire solution. As I move ahead, the collaboration of goal management driving productivity through Zippy becomes a really pivotal thing over here. So basically, Zippy is an application where you can plan better. So I already talked about creation of goals, creation of objectives, creation of tasks, and assigning them. Then you are able to execute them. So say, for example, you are able to view goals that need attention, and that will pop up on the top. What are the tasks that are running late, giving organization of the entire visibility? What are the top conversations that are happening within the organization? From a sales enablement perspective, on the fly, because of the AI chatbot, you are able to get your case studies or sales pitches on the fly. You are able to universally connect with either your CRM or your existing HRMS, flowing in that entire data. So I can ask, what is my leave balance? What is my attendance roster? What is my policy for reimbursement or maternity? And then you can finally even see your overall goals. So even performance is integrated over here with respect to goals management. Let me share another case study of an insurance client. So Chola is basically a collaboration between MSIG, which is a Japanese insurance giant, and Chola Mandalam, which is India. In totality, they have around 34,000 employees and 87 different branches where they are present at. They were actually facing top 4 challenges. The first one was that their internal communication tools did not provide a seamless experience across geographies. The second challenge was that they were having security concerns. So if you actually use a WhatsApp or any other application, somebody will have to omit you from there. Otherwise, a lot of confidential information is getting exchanged. So it was not encrypted, that current solution. Third was the important messages were lost in mails because their current application did not have a threaded feature that could kind of cater to that. And finally, there was a slow decision making process due to ineffective communication. So what we did was that we actually organized all the conversations, all the files, and all the information in one particular app. And as an outcome of it, there was 81% of employees were already engaging within the first 3 months. 62% of workforce in Chola MS were able to maintain regular interactions within Zippy. And there was 55% reduction in in-person meetings that was noted because of the overall poll feature and remote working solution that it had to have. I'm just moving ahead, just giving you another perspective, which is basically for productivity and engagement, how it can help. So if you look at overall Genie and Zippy, there are push notifications that will come to you. And it will say, hey Sriram, there are 2 meetings that are lined up for you today. So we are integrating with entire Outlook. Number 2, it can give you a view of overall transactions where you can see, hey, these are the leaves that you applied for today, and it will give you a prompt. And third is all the tasks that you can create. It can say that, you know what, Sriram, these are the tasks that you created for today, and you need to kind of adhere to that. Because of your push preemptive notifications, generally what we have seen is there is a 10 to 15% increase on your overall productivity because it becomes your what we call as a personalized work-life assistant. There are faster transactions to give you one interface to improve your overall productivity. At the same time, there is a contextual conversation that keeps on happening. The last slide that I want to cover is wanted to give you a view on the automotive side, which is a manufacturing side as well. So if you look at, there were 3,000 employees in this particular company, and we were resolving around 11 queries per employee per day. So these were the distribution of queries. So all the policies, FAQs, query were able to kind of convert into a self-help. You could just talk to the chatbot and you could answer there and there at. Second queries that we were able to answer them was related to employee data. Who's my level 1 manager? What is my work site details? What is my blood group? So that in case there is a COVID impact, I can just shoot out an email through the chatbot. So I can reach out all the B positive people, for example. Few of the queries were related to learning, related to attendance and leave as well. And there was instant query resolution. There was an overall improved productivity and approximately 30 to 35% bandwidth release for HR stakeholders through the help desk automation. So these were different shades that I wanted to cover, Sriram, in the collaboration, productivity, and engagement space.
That's really interesting, Ankur. So you essentially have a chatbot that can quickly address queries, that can take out the transaction time that HR teams are involved in. You have on the move employee communication, a tool that can help you set your OKRs, objective key results, your tasks, daily tasks, weekly tasks, whatever it is. So it doesn't have to be a quarterly appraisal or a quarterly task, right? I mean, so this is continuous, and you have a digital learning functionality which can ensure it's mobile learning, bite-sized learning, peer-to-peer learning. All of it can be very interesting. But Ankur, my fourth question then comes this, right? You've been very nice to showcase specific examples of insurance clients and automotive clients, but you mentioned these are multiple tools, right? Doesn't it add more time to the HR teams in terms of administration because there are multiple tools, or do we have a collaborative approach?
I think that's a very good and very important question, Sriram. So what we have tried to do is that Zippy is a unified application which connects to all of your data. So whether you are running on PeopleStrong or any other HR system that is already prevalent in your organization, we can integrate and get the core data from there, either through Active Directory or any kind of an integration. Second could be any CRM that you might be running on. So whether you are on Zoho, whether you are on Salesforce, whether you are on LeadSquared or HubSpot, we can integrate with that as well. Third is, for example, if I were to launch my meeting, I can go to Zippy, and I will show that to you in the next slides. I can actually launch my Teams meeting from there, or maybe my Google meeting from there, or maybe my Zoom meeting, etc., and stuff like that. So it is even integrated with all your video conferencing platforms. And fourth is, imagine that if your chatbot doesn't have an answer for a particular query, we even have integrated with help desk tools. So a unique query is raised and it can be routed to a specific stakeholder within the organization. All of this can either happen through a data integration, through a single sign on, so I don't have to enter my username and password twice. There is a real time data access across the organization, and we actually have percolated it down to micro transactions. So you can manage each of these. Let me just share another example with you. So this is my live screen. So what I've done is, once I log in into the how do we integrate our complement remote working features, once I log in, I go to Genie, which is the chatbot. And what I've tried to cover is, I can start a Microsoft Teams meeting from here. I can start a Zoho meeting or a Google meeting from within the app. And once I do it, say for example, another use case is I can send an email. So I don't even need to go to my Outlook. Genie can actually send an email on my behalf. I just need to enter my email ID or a subject line, and it is totally automated. Apart from that, these are the other things that you can achieve over the app. So for example, you can have your health and well-being. So whether it's COVID or it's a blood donation or a blood group that you need to kind of cover because it's a tough time right now, right? Or you want to manage your leave and attendance transactions across the entire HR lifecycle, recruitment, performance, learning, or sales enablement. Another example that I tried to cover is, if I click on sales enablement, this is how Genie can help me in giving all of these use cases. I can just share a case study on the fly. I can just share a sales pitch on the fly and stuff like that. This is how we are trying to cover or integrate the entire continuum. Just to give you a small ballpark of what does PeopleStrong do. So most of the HR systems, if you will know, will actually stop here. So PeopleStrong ecosystem actually runs across the life cycle. So we have an end-to-end talent acquisition stack. So here organizations are able to do the entire applicant tracking through AI based, machine learning based applications and matchmaking and unified data access over there. In fact, HRTech.sg, Eton House in Singapore, Institute of Banking and Finance under MAS, and a lot many large companies like TrueCorp, Miner, etc. over here. Then we have the entire people experience platform, which talks about right from onboarding till the person exits, has around 15-20 modules, even payroll is central to it. Then comes talent management, which is learning, performance, and succession planning. And collaboration is what makes us the most intelligent, where the AI layer cuts across the entire ecosystem. And all of this gets integrated to either the client existing systems, or we can kind of integrate with our own system as well. Even the recruitment integration with all the job boards, video interviews, assessments are pre-integrated. That's what I wanted to cover.
Awesome. Sorry, Ankur, the previous slide. So essentially what you're saying is we have a secure WhatsApp-like functionality, which has got a chat bot from where you can administer polls, you can manage tasks and performance, do the productivity management of your employees. You can do performance management. Employees can do self-service. In fact, earlier, some of these tools had chatbots that used to support only the HR related queries. So what you're saying, by integrating with the CRM systems, the sales teams now have case studies to all their sales collaterals at the click of a button, essentially. All of this integrated.
A knowledge management tool, if I were to say. It is cutting across a business application now. So it's become a business agenda rather than only an HR agenda.
Fantastic. And, obviously integrating with digital learning. So we have a question here. So Grace has a question on, can you share examples of SMEs that have utilized the tools? Only MNCs are adopting the functionalities. Grace, for this webinar, we probably have not highlighted SMEs that have adopted it, but I'm very glad to tell you that next week we are actually launching our case study compilation of Singapore SMEs that have adopted HR technology tools. And we would, if you would leave your email ID, we could definitely share it. Our focus is to communicate that a lot of SMEs are now adopting specific aspects of this. They might not look at an end-to-end tool, but yes, they are definitely looking at specific aspects.
So Sriram, if I may just add on that, so
Please.
we have not covered about the case studies, but just to share, companies like PCCW, companies like Titansoft, companies like Singapore Life Insurance, companies like Institute of Banking and Finance are sub 100 and are SMEs in Singapore context, which also run on PeopleStrong. I'll be happy to share the case studies with Grace offhand in case you wishes to connect. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ankur. That would be helpful. So we move to the final poll of the day, and this probably will answer a question that actually came from Jessica. Jessica, maybe this poll will give you an answer, and the final question addresses your concern on how to overcome adoption issues. In the final question, Ankur would answer how to go about an efficient way of implementing HR technology solution in your organization. But before that, we move to the poll 3. Okay, on the screen are 4 choices. The question is, why do organizations hesitate to invest in new HR tech? Is it because of lack of management support? Management would like to accord sales systems more preference than HR systems, or the perception that costs are really prohibitive when it comes to HR tech? Interesting. So Ankur, you might want to address that. A lot of people think that some of these tools are very, very costly. The third is lack of a strong business case by HR teams. That's been our focus. HR needs to talk the financial language to the leadership team. If they're able to present a business case that talks money, finance, dollars, it has a lot more appeal. And finally, non-availability of reference case studies, like how if you have more case studies, we could present it to our leadership.
I see a lot of people maybe mentioning highly perceived implementation costs, which actually is not true in a classical SaaS setup. So whatever is a subscription cost, typically 3 to 6 months of your subscription cost typically becomes a one-time setup. If you were to compare it with an on-prem solution, it will actually be very less. It might even be around 20% of that, because in on-prem what you will see is you will have to hire a team, maintain the team, you have to have upgrades, constant upgrades, the local start compliances, the tool may become redundant, then you need to have your server cost and stuff like that. In comparison to a SaaS solution, it will be very less. And in case you were to look at a total cost of optimization between 3 to 5 years, within the next 2 years you will have higher efficiencies. By the end of third year, you will start reaping in a lot of benefits as well.
Thank you, Ankur. So essentially, it looks like the second aspect of perceived implementation cost being very prohibitive seems to be the number one option. Number 2 is the lack of a strong business case by HR teams. Very valuable input. So from hrtech.hd perspective, we would try to address all of this. We will try to come up with templates which can help you present stronger business case to HR team, stronger business case to leadership teams. We will also come up with the peer reference case studies that you can take to your management.
So in fact, what we also did, Sriram, was if people go to zippy.co, ZIPPI.co, especially for these COVID times, you can actually just go and register. And PeopleStrong actually for the first 3 months have made their tool without any implementation cost, so that people can start working on the overall remote working solution. I think what we believed is that PeopleCare is a good business, and that's where we have put it. It's online. You can just go and register and start using it within 2 days.
Yeah, and as we move to the next slide, right, just wanted to elaborate on Ankur's point that most of these SaaS tools are based on number of employees per month. The billing happens based on number of employees that you have this month, and you're getting billed for it. And the cost is not really prohibitive as many of you might think. So it's probably good time to talk to some of the product providers and inquire about the cost. We come to the final question, Ankur. We have seen, we are now quite convinced on the various tools, how integrated approach that we have. But what we really, when we talk to the enterprise HR teams, they are concerned that a lot of these implementations, go through smoothly, but adoption is a concern in some cases. Some cases it doesn't go through smoothly. Your thoughts, please.
Sure. Thanks. I think it's a very important question, Sriram. I think in my view, I've just tried to cover 5 points and I will just elaborate on that. The first one is lack of shared vision. I think one of the biggest reasons why HR technology implementations fail is this. Let me give you a perspective. Imagine if I'm going to a talent acquisition head. The entire perspective that the TA leader will have is on the candidate experience, the talent mapping, and the overall candidate process line management. Vis-a-vis, if you go to a HR head, the people agenda or the digital employee experience will become the key agenda.
That's
If
right.
you go to a CIO, they are looking at standardization, integration, start compliance. Vis-a-vis, if you're going to a CFO, you typically would want to focus on cost arbitrage, overall efficiency, and the value creation on ground. Now, these and over and above that, you have a CEO that will always talk about predictability, governance, scalability, and how does business typically gain from a top line or a bottom line perspective. If these are so varied needs, what we need to do is we need to create a project charter together, identifying that there are four different stakeholders having four different needs, and how will your tool collaborate and percolate in each of these different areas and give a shared vision to that. That is very, very pivotal for any HR technology implementation to begin. That is my first point that I wanted to cover. Second in itself is the overall transition and design failure. So, requirement gathering, understanding the client problems and key concerns, creating an entire overall solution around it, and delivering it to the best of design. I think these 3 to 6 months are the most critical in any implementation on ground. We at PeopleStrong follow something that we call as a PACE methodology, where we go and present a solution. A stands for analyze. We analyze what are the different variants. Then we calibrate internally of what could happen. And then finally we evolve basis the shared vision that is coming. So that is the PACE methodology, which is further bifurcated into 14 sub stages where you go to an organization, do the as is understanding, identify the gaps, create the SOPs or standard operating procedures, functional requirement specifications, to be process maps. Then you go into workforce characteristics, time characteristics, soft launch, UAT, and finally you go live. These are the different stages that you have to go through in really in detail and ensure that this doesn't fail there. Third, of course, is cultural issues. In our experience, Singapore is very different from Thailand, is very different from Philippines and India. You have very different cultural nuances that are there. So, for example, Singaporeans are very process oriented, very well documented. Indians are very culturally strong when it comes to the overall relationship credibility. Thailand again is a very, very similar market than India, and you of course need a local person to be leading from Thai, understanding the nuances, what they are trying to portray. Certain of the policies are also very, very different. For example, leave rules which are on an hourly basis and stuff like that. How do you manage that? Fourth typical component that we have, and I've been trying to highlight across my entire presentation, is on the integration bit. An overall integrated layer where the CIO plays a very, very key role, because while you are laying out a technology blueprint, HR is just one application across the entire enterprise stack. But the most important data, which is the employee data, whether it's payroll or the entire onboarding or recruitment data, starts from there. And then it percolates down the entire employee lifecycle, where you will have a digital app store and stuff like that. So integrating with the existing apps, having a seamless experience across, is another very, very important reason that has to be kept in mind. Finally, of course, no project will go and kick off in case you cannot onboard the stakeholders and put in a very strong governance mechanism. Governance mechanism again has to be divided into different tiers. There have to be a sponsorship level, and you can define the frequency of measurement over there, whether it's quarterly, monthly, or biannually or annually. Then you go to a tactical layer where operational teams will meet, and then finally there is a total transactional layer where teams will meet on ground and then have their Gantt charts and the overall project tracking and methodology. Of course, the project charter that we designed at the shared vision state becomes a constant sacrosanct, from sales to transitions to solutions to go live and even to the account director team. So that becomes a live document all across. These are the major 5 reasons in my experience why HR technology uh, implementations fail.
Ankur, before we move to the questions, quick response to Oswin's question. Oswin is asking, can you share an example of the shared vision across these stakeholders? Do you have an example that you can share offhand?
Sure, sure. So I can give an example of, say, a company called TrueCop, which I also covered the case study. So basically, what they were facing a challenge was that, as I rightly mentioned, there were 13 different integrations that they needed to. They were running on 13 different systems. One of the common agenda that was percolated down, and if you go to CP Group website, and you will also see over there, is the digital employee experience was the common agenda and terminology that was used by the CEO, by the CIO, by the CHRO, and rest of the team. But the elements of it which percolated down were differentiated across all of these groups. The CEO, when it came about digital employee experience, were actually focusing on the overall productivity, overall goal management, and overall efficiency metrics. Vis-a-vis, a CHRO was talking about people experience, overall employee experience, and overall MIS and analytics, which we call as a workforce demographics matrix. And our sponsor, which is basically the overall CIO over there, was also typically focusing on the overall integration of these 13 apps to get a unified people experience integrated platform. So this is how you typically create the overall project vision and then percolate it down.
Thank you, Ankur. That really helps. Thank you very much. Hope Ashwin, that question has answered. So before we move to the Q&A, right, I just wanted to, there's one question from Rishi also on the culture aspect. So I wanted to combine both of it and say, in our experience, whenever we talk to enterprise HR teams, they should try to keep two things in mind. Start with the problem that you're trying to solve, not try to start with the solution in mind. Always try to start with the problem. If you try to force fit this product or the solution into your organization, it might not work in most cases. The second thing is, it should all please factor in the culture of an organization very, very importantly in all your planning, because in some organizations it's very top down. Some organizations it's completely bottoms up. They need the buy-in of everyone before they go in for a new software, and adoption also will be based on only when everyone is bought into the solution. So the enterprise HR teams have to work with the product providers to understand the culture of the organization really well before you embark on any specific technology. So with that, we come to the end of the presentation, but we have a lot of questions, Ankur.
Okay.
Let me try popping up as much as of them in the remaining time. We've answered Jessica's question on adoption issues. Gaurav has a question. He says, what are the steps that can be taken to bring back the diminishing gap between work time and personal time, plus more focus only on employee performance management, focus on leaves has taken a backseat? Gaurav, I would answer that question. I think it's more short term. People are trying to struggle with this transition to the new normal. The enterprise HR teams are one side trying to ensure that BAU activities are not affected. At the same time, they are trying to ensure that they are carrying the organization forward to the new normal. So I think these are transition issues. That's why they're trying to focus on performance management, productivity management. But I think the overall employee experience will definitely come back into focus soon, right? Question from DT Ankur. Lack of resources is also one of the key reasons why companies don't invest in HR tech. Do you have an answer to that? Have you seen a situation where the HR teams don't have too many resources to help support, and you have done it?
Absolutely, I totally agree with it. In fact, few of the customers that we even signed up for, one of the major reasons they sometimes kind of delay the project kickoff is because they don't have the apt resources. So what you typically do in that particular case is that we go back to the customer, understand their pressing issues, and imagine if they have taken and signed up for 5 different modules. However, if HRIS database maintenance or learning is their key issue, we phase out the entire implementation. Basis the resource availability, instead of going full hog and deploying all the modules in 2 to 3 months or 6 months as per the scale of the organization, you phase that out. Maybe within the first month, you will only focus on this, and then you can have a tiered approach in different phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So their pressing issues are addressed. At the same time, their resource availability is also maintained at the same time.
Very good point. Most companies actually do that. Even large enterprises start with one small team, do the pilot, and then slowly move it to the entire organization. There's one question from Nelly. Nelly, you put it in the chat group on the government funding. Well, as mentioned earlier, the Singapore government is really focused on driving technology adoption, especially by SMEs. There are a lot of PSG grants available for companies to adopt. Maybe if you can reach out to us, we can share you details on what are the various grants that are available for you to look and adopt.
Also, Enterprise Singapore has come up, Sriram, something with that. So, for example, even for us as a provider, if that particular entity is an SME in Singapore, we can work with them to file a particular application, and they can, I think, by till December 31st, if I'm not wrong, 60 to 80% of that entire fund can be reallocated to them, and we can work with them. We are open for that as well.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Ankur. One more question from DT is, how about virtual CSR for employee engagement? Currently, is there a SaaS for employers and employees to continue social responsibility amidst a pandemic? So, any experience of your clients having used Zippy or Genie to do CSR to engage with employees?
So let me just share that in our entire product stack, we also have something called as a PaaS, platform as a services, where you can actually build your own apps. So in the past 6 months, rather, you will be amazed with the kind of solutions organizations have come up with and build on that PaaS platform. Starting with, they build up something called as a COVID health tracker, and that was across this entire country. Second, they built up employee stock option plan. Third is when they build up a donation. So in our tool, in under payroll, we have something called as a donation module, where you can donate to various funds that you are a part of, and we can integrate with existing NGOs and stuff like that. So to answer that, answer is yes, it is possible through a platform as a services, where the HRIS score is directly flowing in from our standard module, and depending on the business need, we can build certain applications that can ride on top of it, whether it's towards CSR, whether it is towards remote working or a work from home solution or a health solution or maybe a meeting room application and stuff like that.
Thank you, Ankur. I hope that question was answered, DT. If not, you have Ankur's email and he could provide you more details on that.
You can also add in your perspective in the HR tech market map. If there are any other providers, you can connect her as well.
I could do that. Actually, when the question came up, we are planning to add mental well-being apps into the market map, because we have seen a lot of them coming up in Singapore, but not specifically on CSR. Maybe that's something we might have to come back. We have some more questions. Maxine, Fernando, Gaurav, we are not able to answer your questions because we are running short of time. We'll just take one question in the interest of time, and we will respond to all your questions shortly. It's a question from Maxine. Ankur, can HR tech be effective when employees are not technologically oriented and indifferent to undergo system? How can they be encouraged to engage with this?
I think that's a beautiful question. Let me answer that. So there is a pharmaceutical company in India that again has a problem, and the problem that there were 3 generations working in the same organization, which is the grandfather, the father, and the child. And you can just imagine the age parity that happened in that organization, and we deployed our solution. So what we realize is very pivotal to the entire solution is identifying what we call as the project champions, which are internal. What you need to do is, in those kind of organizations where people are not digitally savvy, identify your champions, do something what we call as town halls, which are really, for example, I will just go to a plant, I will put up my stall, show them that what, and I will put, for example, if Sriram is my friend, Sriram downloaded the app and he marked his leave or attendance, then Sriram will become my advocate, and he will help me kind of percolate it down and saying that, what, I have never done it in the last 10 years, but I did it in a click. And that becomes a sense of pride, a sense of inclusivity, and that's where you typically need to have a very, very strong change management, marketing, at the same time an inclusive project champion approach that will help you drive that at that particular organization. Also, at those organizations where technology change is not very easy to adopt, you typically should adopt a phase-wise approach and not go for long. because that will then not result in a lot of effective output.
Sure. We are running short of time. I'm sure even if you have a lot more time, we would have sufficient questions to answer it. Thank you, Ankur, for joining in. It was a pleasure hosting you on this webinar, and we really wish you the very best on your Asia Pacific journey.
Thank you so much, Sriram. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you, Ankur. Thank you, participants, for joining in. We will soon have a blog that covers some of the discussion points that were taken up in this webinar. Thank you once again for joining in.
Thank you. Bye-bye.